The ultimatum. The chamber of the Galactic Council stretched before Ambassador Kira Okonkwo like a cathedral built for gods. Crystalline walls soared hundreds of meters overhead, refracting the light of 1,000 alien suns. Around her, the representatives of 63 species sat in tiered galleries, their forms ranging from the elegant to the utterly incomprehensible. Some breathed methane, others existed partially in dimensions she couldn't perceive. But all of them, every single one, looked down on humanity with the same expression. Contempt. The council has been patient. High Arbiter Zelthon's voice resonated through translation matrices, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. The Ctharian stood 3 meters tall, his exoskeleton gleaming with ceremonial scarification that marked 500 years of service. Your species was granted provisional membership 60 cycles ago. 60 cycles, during which you have contributed nothing to galactic civilization. Kira kept her face neutral, even as her jaw clenched. 60 cycles, roughly 30 Earth years, since humanity had stumbled into a network of ancient FTL gates and discovered they were the newest, smallest, and least impressive species in a galaxy already carved up by empires that had ruled the stars for millennia. We have shared our culture, our art, our scientific perspectives, she began. Your technology is primitive. The interruption came from Overseer Yindala of the Valoran Collective, her crystalline form pulsing with dismissive colors. Your worlds are few. Your lifespans are tragically brief. You reproduce slowly. You have no unique resources. You offer nothing we require. Then let us go in peace, Kira said, her voice steady despite the pit growing in her stomach. Earth has no desire for conflict. That is no longer an option. Shadrim Warleader Caxthor rose from his seat, 8 limbs unfolding with predatory grace. The insectoid warrior's mandibles clicked with something that might have been amusement. The Sol system occupies a strategic position. 6 major trade routes converge within 10 light-years of your star. We have tolerated your presence out of curiosity. That tolerance has expired. The weight of his words settled over the chamber like a physical force. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. It had never been. You're demanding our surrender, Kira said quietly. We are offering you survival, Zelthon corrected. Submit to protectorate status under the Tri-Empire Alliance. Dismantle your military vessels. Allow our forces to occupy strategic positions throughout your system. In return, your species will be permitted to exist as service workers. Laborers. You will have purpose within the galactic order. Slaves. They were offering humanity slavery dressed up in diplomatic language. Kira thought of Earth, that blue-green jewel hanging in the darkness. She thought of Mars, where 3 million colonists had spent 2 generations building a new civilization. She thought of the mining stations in the asteroid belt, the research facilities orbiting Europa, the terraforming projects on Titan. 30 billion humans spread across their home system, working, dreaming, building their future one day at a time. They weren't the strongest species. They weren't the oldest or the wisest. But they were hers. No, she said. The chamber erupted. Aliens chittered, roared, hummed, and broadcast their disbelief across every wavelength. Zelthon's eyes narrowed. You understand what refusal means? I do. Kira straightened her shoulders. And humanity's answer remains no. We will not surrender our freedom, our dignity, or our future. Not today. Not ever. Caxthor's mandibles spread in what might have been a grin. Then you choose extinction. So be it. The Tri-Empire fleet will arrive at your system in 10 cycles. We will demonstrate to the galaxy what happens to species that forget their place. He looked around the chamber at the watching representatives. Let this be a lesson to all. The council dissolved into chaos as Kira turned and walked away, her head held high even as her heart hammered against her ribs. She didn't run until she reached her ship. Admiral Marcus Webb looked older than his 63 years. The years of spaceflight had etched lines into his dark skin, and the weight of Earth's defense had turned his hair silver. But his eyes remained sharp as he studied the holographic display floating above the situation table in Earth Defense Force headquarters, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Colorado Plateau. How long? He asked. 9 days, Captain Rodriguez answered grimly. The alien fleet dropped out of FTL at the system's edge an hour ago. 300 capital ships, maybe 2,000 support vessels. They're not even trying to hide their approach. Webb watched the red icons crawl across the display. Against them, Earth's defense forces looked pathetically inadequate. 72 ships, most of them outdated designs built before humanity even knew there were aliens to fight. They'd been designed to patrol the solar system, to protect mining operations and shipping lanes from pirates and rogue asteroids. They were never meant to face this. Pull everything back to Earth orbit, Webb ordered. Evacuation protocols for Mars and the outer colonies. Get as many civilians to bunkers as possible. Sir. Rodriguez hesitated. What about Project Prometheus? Webb's jaw tightened. Project Prometheus. Humanity's desperate gamble. 5 years of development, every resource Earth could spare, the brightest minds from a dozen fields all working toward a single goal. Create something that could level the playing field. The problem was nobody knew if it would actually work. Alert Commander Chin, Webb said finally. It's time. Commander Sarah Chin floated in zero gravity, her magnetic boots disengaged as she drifted through the observation bay of Neptune Orbital Facility 7. Through the reinforced windows she could see it. The Prometheus. Even now, after 3 years working on the project, the sight of it made her breath catch. It didn't look like any ship humanity had ever built. It didn't even look like it should be able to fly. The hull was asymmetrical, almost organic, with sections that seemed to fold into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Quantum processors the size of buildings jutted from the superstructure at impossible angles. The entire thing shimmered as if it couldn't quite decide whether it existed in normal space. Beautiful, isn't she? Dr. James Okafor floated up beside her, his accent carrying traces of his Nigerian heritage. The physicist had been the theoretical architect behind Prometheus, translating impossible mathematics into barely possible engineering. She looks broken, Sarah said honestly. James laughed. That's because human brains aren't meant to perceive 12-dimensional geometry. Your eyes keep trying to make sense of it and failing. Trust me, she's perfect. At least, theoretically. Theoretically. Sarah turned to look at him. James, we've never tested this thing at full power. We've never even activated half the systems. You're asking me to take her into combat against 300 alien warships based on mathematical models and hope. Not hope, James corrected gently. Faith. Faith in human ingenuity. Faith in our ability to adapt, to innovate, to find solutions when every logical path is closed. He smiled. The aliens think they know what's possible. They've had 10,000 years to perfect their technology, to establish their doctrines and tactics. They're ossified, Sarah. Rigid. They believe the universe follows rules they understand. And Prometheus breaks those rules? Prometheus rewrites them entirely. James's eyes gleamed with the fervor of a true believer. Adaptive shield matrices that learn from incoming fire. Quantum displacement drives that move through space without crossing the distance between. Consciousness-linked tactical AI that responds at the speed of thought. And that's just the systems we understand. Sarah looked back at the ship. At her ship. Somewhere in that impossible tangle of technology, there was a crew of 300 volunteers. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, all waiting for her order. The alien fleet will be here in 9 days, she said quietly. Then we have 9 days to make the impossible real. James squeezed her shoulder. They underestimate us, Sarah. They see a young species with primitive technology, and they assume we're no threat. But humanity has always been at its best when we're underestimated. When we're pushed into a corner with no way out, that's when we become truly dangerous. Sarah thought about Earth, about the billions of people who would die if Prometheus failed. She thought about her daughter Maya, 7 years old, who drew pictures of spaceships and dreamed of being an explorer. She thought about all the human children who deserved a chance to dream. Alert the crew, she said, her voice steady. We launch in 6 hours. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do. As she floated toward the docking tube that would take her to Prometheus, Sarah Chin didn't know if they would succeed. She didn't know if the ship would even survive its first engagement. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. They would fight with everything they had, and they would make the galaxy remember their name. Behind her, the Prometheus waited in the darkness, patient and strange and utterly unprecedented. In 9 days the aliens would arrive expecting an easy victory. They were about to learn that humans had never been very good at meeting expectations. First Contact Protocol. The Tri-Empire Armada moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts, their formation perfect, their purpose absolute. High Commander Zelthon stood on the bridge of the Ctharian dreadnought Inevitable Victory, watching the primitive star system grow larger in the viewscreen. Pitiful, muttered War Leader Cax Thor from his position at the tactical station. 70 ships. Most of them barely qualify as combat vessels. This will be over in minutes. Do not underestimate them, Zelthon cautioned, though even he felt the sentiment was unnecessary. The humans had proven themselves to be clever in small ways. Their art showed creativity, their mathematics demonstrated potential, but cleverness meant nothing against overwhelming force. The Tri-Empire had conquered 600 systems. Earth would be 601. Incoming transmission from the Human Defense Fleet, the communications officer announced. On screen, the image that appeared showed an older human male, his dark skin marked with age, his eyes carrying the weight of command. Admiral Webb, according to their intelligence files. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of Earth Defense Force. You are entering sovereign human territory. Turn back now and no blood need be shed. Caxthor's mandibles clattered with amusement. The insect warns the storm away. How delightful. Zelthon raised a clawed hand for silence. Admiral Webb, your bravery is noted. However, courage without wisdom is merely suicide. You have one final opportunity to surrender. Transmit your unconditional capitulation, and your species will be granted protectorate status. Resist and you will be cleansed. Webb's expression didn't change. We have a saying on Earth, give me liberty or give me death. Your answer is no, High Commander. It will always be no. The transmission ended. Form attack formation Sigma 7, Zelthon ordered. Prepare to engage. Target their military vessels first. Once their defense forces are destroyed, we will discuss terms with whoever remains alive on their planet. The alien fleet began its deployment, 300 massive warships spreading out in a pattern that had been perfected over millennia of warfare. Each vessel was a masterwork of destructive efficiency, armed with plasma cannons that could vaporize cities, particle beams that could slice through starship hulls, missile batteries carrying antimatter warheads. Against them, Earth's fleet looked like toys. High Commander, the sensor officer called out, confusion in her voice. I'm detecting a new contact. Single vessel, emerging from the outer system. It's accelerating. Fast. Show me. The image that appeared on the tactical display made Zelthon's eyes narrow. The ship, if it could be called that, looked nothing like the crude human vessels they'd catalogued. It was larger, certainly, perhaps twice the size of their largest cruisers. But its configuration was bizarre. Asymmetrical. Sections of the hull seemed to twist in ways that hurt to look at. What is that? Caxthor leaned forward, his predatory interest piqued. Unknown design, the sensor officer reported. I'm having trouble getting accurate readings. The hull signature keeps shifting, as if it's phasing between dimensional states. Their secret weapon, Overseer Yundala's holographic form materialized on the bridge, her crystalline structure pulsing with amused colors. Our intelligence intercepted transmissions. They call it Prometheus. They believe this single vessel can somehow counter our entire fleet. Laughter rippled through the bridge crew. The idea was absurd. One ship against 300? Identify its weapon systems, Zelthon ordered. That's unclear, High Commander. The energy signatures don't match any known configuration. There are massive power cores, but they're not connected to anything I recognize as weapons. Perhaps it's a bluff, suggested one of the tactical officers. A desperate attempt to make us believe they have capabilities they lack. Zelthon considered. It was possible. Humans were known for their creativity, their ability to improvise. Psychological warfare would be consistent with their nature. Maintain course, he decided. If they wish to sacrifice their prototype, we will accommodate them. All ships target the Prometheus. Let us test this weapon of theirs. Sarah Chin sat in the command chair at the heart of Prometheus, her hands resting on interface panels that felt more liquid than solid. Around her, holographic displays showed the alien fleet in horrifying detail. 300 ships. 300. Ma'am, we're being targeted, Lieutenant Morrison called from tactical. 47 ships have weapons lock. Energy signatures spiking. Let them fire, Sarah said calmly, even as her heart tried to beat its way out of her chest. Activate Defensive Protocol Alpha. James, is the neural link stable? Stable and waiting, Dr. Okafor's voice came through her earpiece. He was 3 decks below in the quantum core chamber, monitoring systems that operated on principles most scientists still didn't fully understand. The AI is reading your biosignals. It knows you're scared, Sarah. It's trying to comfort you. Wonderful. My ship is trying to give me a hug while we're about to be shot at. Actually, it's more sophisticated than. Incoming fire. Morrison's shout cut through the moment of levity. Sarah felt rather than saw the attack. 47 ships opened fire simultaneously, a calculated barrage designed to overwhelm any defensive system through sheer volume. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and kinetic projectiles crossed the distance at a significant fraction of light speed. The Prometheus didn't dodge. Instead, something happened that made Sarah's vision blur. The space around the ship seemed to fold, and suddenly the incoming fire was somewhere else. Not destroyed, not deflected. Relocated. The attacks materialized in empty space thousands of kilometers away, harmlessly dissipating their energy into the void. What was that? Sarah breathed. Quantum displacement field, James said, his voice tinged with awe. It's not just deflecting the attacks, it's moving them through higher dimensional space. Sarah, the math is working. It's actually working. On the alien flagship, chaos erupted. Impossible, the sensor officer shouted. The attacks passed through the ship as if it wasn't there. No, wait, the ship moved. No, the attacks moved. I can't explain what just happened. Zelthon's 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display. The human ship remained intact, utterly undamaged, and was now accelerating directly toward his fleet. Full barrage, he ordered. All ships. Every weapon. I want that vessel destroyed now. 299 ships opened fire. The Prometheus began to dance. Sarah's consciousness had merged with the ship's AI, her thoughts translated instantly into action. She didn't control Prometheus so much as guide it, her intuition and creativity combined with computational power that could predict attack vectors before they were executed. The ship moved through space in ways that defied conventional physics. It slipped sideways through dimensions human eyes couldn't perceive. It folded distance, appearing 1,000 kilometers from where it had been without crossing the space between. The adaptive shield matrix learned from each attack, cataloging energy signatures, predicting patterns, evolving countermeasures in real time. But more than that, Prometheus was beautiful. It spiraled and twisted, leaving trails of quantum distortion that confused sensors and disrupted targeting solutions. It split probability fields, existing in multiple potential positions simultaneously until the moment before each attack arrived, then collapsing into the one position that avoided damage. To the human crew it felt like flying through a dream. To the aliens it looked like magic. They're retreating. Morrison shouted triumphantly as 3 cruisers broke formation, their commanders unwilling to continue an assault that achieved nothing. No, Sarah said quietly, her enhanced senses reading the battlefield with perfect clarity. They're repositioning. They still think they can win through numbers and coordination. She was right. The alien fleet reformed, surrounding Prometheus in a 3-dimensional sphere. There was nowhere to dodge now. Nowhere to slip away to. All vessels, fire on my mark, Zelthon commanded. Coordinate detonation for simultaneous impact. If we cannot hit it, we will ensure it has nowhere to escape to. Sarah, they're going to fill the entire engagement zone with attacks, James warned. Even we can't dodge everything at once. Sarah smiled, and through the neural link, Prometheus felt her confidence. Her determination. Her absolute refusal to let her people down. Then we don't dodge, she said. Protocol Omega. Full activation. Sarah, we've never tested. Now, James? The quantum cores buried in Prometheus's heart erupted with power that made the ship's superstructure sing. Energy cascaded through systems that operated on principles still being discovered, following pathways that existed in more than 3 dimensions. And Prometheus split. 1 ship became 2. 2 became 4. 4 became 8. In the space of 3 seconds, Prometheus multiplied into 32 identical copies, each one perfectly real, each one capable of independent action. That's impossible, Caxthor whispered on the alien bridge. Conservation of mass. Entropy. They can't just. They're not copies, Overseer Yundala said, her voice filled with something the others had never heard from her before, fear. They're probability states. That ship is existing in 32 different quantum states simultaneously. They've weaponized superposition. Zelthon stared at the tactical display, watching 32 Prometheus vessels move in perfect coordination, each one a valid threat. For the first time in his 500 years of military service, he felt something he'd almost forgotten. Doubt. All ships, he said slowly. Prepare for tactical withdrawal. We need to reassess. He never finished the sentence. The 32 Prometheus vessels moved as one, accelerating with impossible speed directly into the alien formation. They didn't fire weapons, they didn't need to. The quantum wake they generated disrupted every system they passed, causing shields to fail, engines to stutter, weapons to misfire. It was like watching a school of fish move through a formation of sharks, except the fish were winning. Fall back. Zelthon roared. All ships retreat to A Prometheus vessel phased directly through his flagship, and every system on the bridge died simultaneously. Emergency lighting flickered on, painting everything in blood-red illumination. In the sudden silence, Zelthon understood with perfect clarity. They had gravely, catastrophically underestimated humanity. And that mistake was going to cost them everything. Humanity Ascendant. The battle that would later be called the Soul Engagement lasted 8 hours. To those who fought in it, it felt both like an eternity and an instant. Sarah Chin guided her 32 probability state vessels through the alien fleet like a conductor leading an orchestra, each movement precise, each action part of a greater symphony. The neural link had evolved beyond simple ship control. She could feel the fear radiating from the alien crews, sense the confusion as their doctrine-based tactics proved useless against an opponent that rewrote the rules with every engagement. Enemy flagship is attempting to reform their defensive wall, Morrison reported, his voice strained from hours of constant battle. Looks like they're trying formation Theta 9. Standard encirclement pattern. They're still thinking conventionally, Sarah murmured. Through her expanded perception, she could see the alien strategic thinking as clearly as if they'd sent her their battle plans. Thousands of years of military tradition had taught them that superior numbers and coordinated firepower would always triumph. They'd never faced an opponent that could exist in multiple states simultaneously, that could phase through their defenses, that learned and adapted faster than they could react. "James, can we sustain this quantum split much longer?" she asked. Dr. Okafor's voice came through, exhausted but exhilarated. "The power consumption is astronomical, but the cores are holding steady. We can maintain for another 6 hours if needed. The AI is managing the probability collapse beautifully. It's predicting which states need to resolve and which need to persist. Sarah, this technology, it's going to change everything." She knew he was right. Prometheus wasn't just a warship. It was proof that humanity could compete at the highest levels of galactic civilization. That human creativity and adaptability could overcome raw technological superiority. But first they had to survive the next 6 hours. Multiple vessels breaking formation, Lieutenant Torres called from sensors. Counting, 47 ships heading out system at maximum velocity. They're running. Sarah felt a grim satisfaction. Good. Let them run. Let them carry word back to their empires about what happened here. But the bulk of the alien fleet remained, over 200 ships now locked in a desperate battle they no longer understood how to win. High Commander Zelthon had reorganized his forces into smaller, more mobile groups, trying to use their numbers to overwhelm at least one of the Prometheus probability states. It was a sound tactical decision. It might even have worked against a conventional opponent. Sarah wasn't conventional anymore. She'd spent 8 hours merged with an AI that thought in 12 dimensions, that saw time as a flexible variable, that understood reality at a quantum level. Her consciousness had expanded beyond anything she'd imagined possible. She didn't just command Prometheus. In a very real sense she had become Prometheus. And Prometheus was done being defensive. "All probability states," she commanded, her voice resonating through 32 ships simultaneously. "Offensive pattern Sigma. Let's end this." The 32 vessels moved in perfect synchronization, weaving between alien capital ships like needles through cloth. But this time instead of simply phasing through, they left gifts behind. "What are they doing?" Caxthor demanded on the bridge of his cruiser, watching the human vessels dance past them. "They're not firing. They're not." His ship's reactor went critical. So did 29 others. The quantum drives on each Prometheus probability state had dropped tiny seeds of destabilized matter into the power cores of 30 alien vessels. Not bombs. Not weapons in any conventional sense. Simply carefully placed catalysts that caused the ship's own reactors to cascade into overload. 30 ships became 30 brief suns, their deaths illuminating the battlefield with horrible beauty. Sarah felt each detonation like a physical blow. She'd just killed thousands, maybe tens of thousands of aliens. Beings with families, with dreams, with lives as valid and precious as any humans. The neural link forced her to acknowledge the weight of that choice. But it also reminded her why she'd made it. 30 billion humans who deserve to live free. "Enemy fleet is fragmenting," Morrison reported, his voice carrying a note of disbelief. "Massive desertions. They're retreating. All of them." On the bridge of inevitable victory, Zelthon made the hardest decision of his military career. "Signal all ships," he said quietly. "Full retreat. Maximum speed. We've lost." "High Commander, we still outnumber them." "Numbers mean nothing." Zelthon's shout echoed through the bridge. Don't you understand? They have technology we can't counter. They think in ways we can't predict. Every minute we remain here, we lose more ships to an opponent we fundamentally do not understand. His 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display, watching the 32 human vessels. No, the one human vessel existing in 32 quantum states, move through space with impossible grace. We came here expecting to crush primitives, he continued, his voice heavy with bitter understanding. We found something else entirely. Something new. Something dangerous. He turned to his communications officer. Transmit to all Tri-Empire forces. Immediate withdrawal from Sol system. Classification upgrade, humanity to Tier 1 threat status. Tier 1. Yundala's hologram flickered to life, her crystalline form pulsing with confused colors. That would place them alongside the progenitor remnants and the void collectives. Zelthon, the Council will never. The Council wasn't here, Zelthon interrupted. The Council didn't watch a single ship multiply itself and phase through our defenses like we weren't even there. The Council didn't feel the moment when 10,000 years of tactical doctrine became instantly obsolete. He looked at her image. Humanity is Tier 1 because they did in 30 years what most species take 10 millennia to accomplish. They fundamentally altered the nature of warfare. The alien fleet began its retreat, 300 ships becoming 250, then 200, then fewer as more commanders abandoned their formations and fled into FTL. Sarah watched them go, her 32 probability states beginning to collapse back into a single vessel as the quantum cores powered down. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But she felt no triumph. Only exhaustion and the terrible weight of what they'd proven. All Prometheus vessels begin probability collapse, she ordered. Return to primary state. The 32 ships flickered, shimmered, and merged, quantum possibilities resolving into a single reality. Prometheus hung in space, scarred and damaged but intact, surrounded by the debris of alien vessels and the distant, retreating lights of the survivors. "Ma'am, incoming transmission," Morrison said. "Admiral Webb." On screen. Webb's face appeared, and Sarah saw tears streaming down the old admiral's cheeks. Behind him, the command center had erupted in celebration, officers and crew embracing, shouting, weeping with relief. "Commander Chin," Webb said, his voice thick with emotion. "You did it. Against all odds, against everything they threw at you, you did it. Humanity survives because of you." Sarah wanted to share his joy. She wanted to celebrate. But the neural link still echoed with the deaths of thousands, with the weight of the choice she'd made, with the knowledge of what Prometheus represented. "Admiral," she said quietly, "request permission to bring Prometheus home." "Permission granted, Commander." "Come home, Sarah. Come home to Earth. You've earned your rest." The transmission ended. Around her, the crew of Prometheus was celebrating, embracing, laughing with the giddy relief of those who'd faced death and survived. She let them have their moment. Then she stood, disengaging from the neural link slowly, feeling her consciousness contract back into merely human dimensions. It was like being blind after seeing in colors that didn't exist. Dr. Okafor met her in the corridor outside the bridge, his face split by an enormous grin. "We did it, Sarah. We actually did it. Do you understand what this means? Prometheus works. The quantum cores are stable. We can build more. We can." "We became what they thought we were," Sarah interrupted softly. James's smile faded. "What?" "They came here to cleanse us because we refused to submit. To show the galaxy what happens to species that forget their place." Sarah looked out a viewing port at the debris field, at the fading traces of alien ships fleeing into the dark. "And we taught them exactly that lesson. We showed them what happens when you underestimate humanity. When you push us into a corner. Sarah, we defended ourselves. We protected Earth." "I know." She turned to face him. "I know we did what we had to do. But James, we changed everything today. We proved that human innovation can overcome raw power. That our creativity, our adaptability, our refusal to accept limitations, it makes us dangerous. Tier 1 threat dangerous." She gestured toward the retreating alien fleet. "They came here expecting to crush primitives. They left having witnessed a revolution. And every other species in the galaxy is going to hear about what happened here. Some will be inspired. Some will be terrified. But none of them will underestimate humanity ever again." James was quiet for a long moment. "Is that such a bad thing?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But it's what we are now. For better or worse, humanity just announced itself to the galaxy not as victims or junior partners, but as players. As contenders." She smiled, tired but genuine. "We rose higher. We fought harder. We pushed further than anyone expected. Now we get to live with what that means. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the same chamber of the Galactic Council where Ambassador Okonkwo had received the ultimatum. But everything had changed. The aliens still looked down at her from their tiered galleries. But not with contempt. With wariness. With calculation. With respect. The Tri-Empire Alliance withdraws its demands for Earth's submission, High Arbiter Zelthon announced formally. Furthermore, humanity is hereby granted full sovereign status within the Galactic Council. Your borders will be recognized. Your independence will be acknowledged. Kira caught Sarah's eye from across the chamber, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. They both knew this was a victory. They both knew it came with a price. Additionally, Overseer Yundala added, her colors carefully neutral, we propose a technology sharing agreement. The Prometheus represents a fundamental breakthrough in quantum manipulation. We believe mutual cooperation would benefit all species. There it was. The real reason for the sudden diplomatic reversal. They wanted the technology. They wanted to understand what humanity had created. Sarah thought about her daughter Maya, waiting for her on Earth. About the billions of humans who now had a real future among the stars. About the prototype ships already under construction at Neptune Orbital. We'll consider your proposal, she said carefully. But understand this, humanity learned to survive by adapting, by innovating, by refusing to accept that anything is impossible. That's not a technology you can replicate. It's who we are. She looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 63 species, each one ancient beyond human comprehension, each one now forced to acknowledge that the newcomers couldn't be ignored or controlled. You wanted to know what humanity offers to galactic civilization? Sarah continued. We offer hope. We offer proof that determination and creativity matter more than age or power. We offer an example that any species, no matter how small or young or underestimated, can rise to meet any challenge. She smiled. We're Tier 1 now, not because we're the strongest or the oldest, but because we remind the galaxy of something it had forgotten. The impossible is just a dare in disguise. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien responses. Some approving, some outraged, some simply processing this new reality. But Sarah Chin, commander of humanity's greatest achievement, stood tall and unbowed. Behind her, back in Sol System, the Prometheus hung in orbit around Earth, a testament to human ingenuity. Around it, construction had begun on 3 more vessels, each one incorporating lessons learned from the battle. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, other underestimated species heard the story of how humanity had faced overwhelming odds and refused to surrender. How they'd taken their weakness, their youth, their limited resources, their unconventional thinking, and transformed it into unimaginable strength. The story spread like a virus through galactic civilization. Humanity, the species that turned impossible into watch me. Humanity, the newcomers who rewrote the rules. Humanity who rose higher than anyone expected. And in living rooms and schools across Earth, children like Maya Chin drew pictures of the Prometheus and dreamed of the stars, knowing that no challenge was too great, no obstacle too large, no enemy too powerful to stop them from reaching for the impossible. Because that's what humans did. That's what humans had always done. And now, finally, the galaxy knew it too.